So, um, intentions, so goals are often about getting things, achieving things, and so forth, where intentions are much more subtle. It's using discernment to see whether our actions are skillful or unskillful. It's pausing before acting in the service of our goals and values to clarify the intention. So it's a subtle kind of practice, but it's a very important one. You know, goals can be exciting. They can sort of reflect the ups and downs of life. But intention is really about peace of mind. It's about living our values, as I said. It's about cultivating self-respect. Um, and you know, working on intentions doesn't mean we abandon our goals. It's just that we don't mistake one for the other. Okay, so we continue to use them in the larger context that really offers us some stability and peace beyond the fluctuations of pain and pleasure, gain and loss, and all the worldly winds that we've talked about. So, as I said, it's the seventh of the eightfold path, and the fundamental, the base for setting and working with intentions is not causing harm. That's the fundamental intention, okay? So in choosing to live with right intention, we don't give up our goals, our desires, and so forth, but we do put an emphasis on living consistent with our values and consistent with our ethics. We live each moment with the intention of not causing harm with our words, not causing harm with our actions. And of course, this doesn't mean that we don't still experience loss and fear and all the difficult emotions that we have to work on accepting. It just means that we are guided by this ethical foundation and guided by our values. That's really the work of setting intention. That our happiness comes from the sort of internal grounding that setting intention brings with it. Okay. Now, this is not moral law. These are not the Ten Commandments. I'm not, you know, it's an attitude. It's a frame of mind which we develop gradually and we continue to cultivate. So I ran into this example when I was preparing my remarks for today. So take, for example, if someone at work is rude and domineering and sort of annoying, you know, they're unpleasant, or at least our experience of them is unpleasant. Okay, so what do we notice? Okay, do we notice our irritation, our reactivity, or do we sort of wonder because of our wish not to cause harm, you know, how desperate this person is for control, how desperate they are for attention, how insecure they are? Do we notice our own dislikes and take the behavior of that person personally, even though they have little to do with us? We just get triggered by them. But if we're grounded in our attention, then our response will be to notice that person's discomfort, notice our own suffering in response to that person's obnoxiousness, and feel compassion for both that person and ourselves. Now, that's a tall order. I appreciate that. But we want to set the intention to bring that perspective to the interaction with this person in the interest of not causing harm to them and harm to ourselves. And it doesn't mean that we don't feel irritation or that we let that person push us around. You know, Tom talked the other day, raised this point about, do we push back in the interest, in the face of toxic behavior? Of course we set limits with that. But rather than avoiding getting lost in reactivity and judgment, we feel a greater sense of internal peace, and our suffering decreases. And that, again, that's the ultimate goal. Okay. We recognize that if our intention is an agenda for the other person, as is often the case, that's something we have no control over. And if we cling to that intention, that, they need to do this, they need to do that, we're just going to suffer because we have zero control over that person's behavior. We may act as though or imagine that we do, but we don't. We know that. We know that we can only suffer clinging to the fact that they should behave this way or they should behave that way. I spent so much of my life thinking about how others should be And all it did was bring me misery and unhappiness and create separation in terms of my relationship. So it's a no-win. I can promise you that. So right intention is aspirational, it's challenging, but it's a very important and somewhat subtle part of our practice. So let me stop there and let's talk about intention and what your experience has been with it.
Jeff, I